We are Shaping Foundations, and we are a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to raising awareness for rare diseases. We are so excited to be beginning, and we have a lot of amazing things planned for you today. Today's agenda includes a discussion about our organization and how you can join our mission and support us for the first few minutes. Next, we'll be having our partners discuss their experiences with rare disease advocacy, and we would like to be concluding with firsthand experiences of rare disease patients. We would like to remind everyone to be muted in order to prevent interruptions. Ani will be moderating and Kayla will be checking the chat, so please feel free to text either of them or private chat them in case you have any questions. Thank you again so much for coming. So first we'll be talking about why are rare diseases important and what they are. Then we'll be going into our nonprofit, our specific goals and who we are. Then we'll continue to our past actions and what we've accomplished so far. Then we'll lead on to our initiatives, future goals, and any other missions that we have planned. And finally, we'll be discussing how you can join and support our mission. My name is Alicia, and I'm the co-founder and co-president of this organization. I'm also the head of the Outreach and Socials Department.
Hi everyone, my name is Pooja and I'm also co-founder and co-president. Currently, I direct the podcast department as well as volunteer management.
Hi everyone, my name is Anirudh and I am the co-founder and treasurer as well as the head of the writing and research department.
Hi everyone, my name is Kayla and I'm also a co-founder and secretary. I'm also currently heading the graphics department and updating the website.
To begin with, we chose today to have our event because today is International Rare Disease Day. So what exactly is a rare disease? According to the American definition, a rare disease is a condition that affects less than 200,000 people in the world. Most rare diseases are termed orphan diseases according to the Orphan Drug Act of 1983, since no drug companies wanted to adopt them, making it very hard for people to come up with effective treatments or successful cures for rare diseases. Many of you may not know this, but rare diseases affect more people than cancer and AIDS combined. You might be wondering, how can a rare disease be so prominent? This is because there are so many rare diseases that 1 in 10 people have a rare disease. This number amounts to over 400 million people around the world, a number greater than the US population. So why do rare diseases matter? 50% of rare diseases do not have an organization supporting research, and 95% of rare diseases do not have an FDA-approved treatment, which means thousands of people are left without hope. Therefore, rare diseases matter, and research supporting rare diseases should be increased in order to ensure that people around the world have better lives. Inspired by this research, we decided to create our nonprofit, and now we'll be discussing who we are and our goals and our mission. Our mission statement is to advocate, spread awareness, and fundraise for rare diseases. We are all currently in high school, therefore we are a student-led nonprofit based in Middlesex County, New Jersey. We all attend a STEM-oriented academy and we hope to be future healthcare professionals. Finally, we are all really passionate about medicine and helping the unique group of people known as the rare disease community.
In the past year, we have worked hard on many different initiatives to spread awareness for rare diseases. Here are some of the things we are most proud of. As a youth-led organization, one of our most powerful tools is social media. For the past year, we have regularly posted on all of our social media platforms in the efforts to spread awareness for rare diseases. We post about everything from the struggles of the rare disease community as a whole to individual rare disease stories. All of the information for our social media will be put in the chat, so if you're interested, please go check out our content. Alongside our social media, we have our very own podcast called Once Upon a Blue Moon. Here, we talk about interviews we have had, information about specific rare diseases, and discussions about some of the problems faced by the rare disease community. You can go check us out wherever you listen to your podcast with the name Once Upon a Blue Moon. We have listeners worldwide, and we would love for you to be one of them. In order to show the world why rare diseases are so important, we have been conducting interviews with rare disease patients to learn more about how rare diseases have shaped their lives, in everything from healthcare to life goals to daily living. We post many of our interviews on our YouTube page, so if you're interested, you can go watch our videos. Last December, in the spirit of the holiday season, we organized a book drive for the Discovery Program at New York Presbyterian Hospital, a program dedicated to helping support children with undiagnosed disorders and their families, who very often have rare diseases. Through this drive, we were able to collect and donate over 250 books, as well as several activity sets to help bring some joy to these children in need. In the past year, we have had the opportunity to partner with several different rare disease organizations, including Endosalpingiosis Foundation, Rare Disease Warriors, and Rocket Pharmaceuticals, as well as many others. Through these partnerships, we have been able to support one another in our efforts to spread awareness and bring change for the rare disease community. Lastly, we have our volunteer program, in which we have been able to garner international involvement. We have 18 volunteers from 5 different countries and 2 ambassadors from 2 different countries, and are always looking for more. If you or your children are interested in joining us, contact us anywhere you'd like, and we would love to have you with us. We'll give more details on this as the presentation closes.
So now we're going to go into our initiatives, so what we're currently doing and what we hope to do in the future. So overall, our goals as a nonprofit, are to advocate for, educate about, and raise awareness for the rare disease community. We hope to fundraise for the rare disease community and donate these funds to organizations that do important research for rare diseases. We hope to support patients and their families who are affected by rare diseases in the best way we can, as well as continue to share the stories of rare disease patients so that we can allow people to learn more about them. Long term, we hope to have more outreach, both in the rare disease community as well as in the medical field, so that both sides of the story get to know each other better, and so that there's more understanding between both doctors and patients. We also hope to start fundraising. Due to the pandemic, we haven't been able to fundraise much, but we hope to increase that as the pandemic dies down. We hope to donate these funds, like I said before, to organizations that do important research for rare disease research. If you're interested in donating to us, you can go to our PayPal at shapingfoundations@gmail.com, or you can find our information on our website. So here are some of the activities and initiatives we've been doing as Rare Disease Month has been going on. The first one is a rare disease social media blackout. So if you don't know, a blackout is when we post only one graphic, like the one that's on the screen, or any other information pertaining to a specific topic, in this case, rare diseases, so that people's feeds are filled with rare disease information and they're urged to go look for more information about rare diseases. If you would like to partake in this, please download the image from our website, and you can post it on your social media as well. If you'd like to post, again, you can go to our website and you can download it from there. Make sure you use the Rare Disease Day Blackout hashtag as shown on the screen. And you can also post any other content related to rare diseases that you'd like you can get it from our page as well if you'd like. Another initiative we've been trying to do is the Rare Disease Day Light Up. In partnership with Rocket Pharmaceuticals and Nord, we have been asking both people that we know and monuments around us to light up their buildings and monuments in the Rare Disease Day colors. We hope that as people see these colors, they're able to learn more about rare diseases and are urged to do some of their own research. If there are any major monuments near you, check them out and see if they have been lit up in the Rare Disease Day colors. And if not, that's something you can partake in next year. And lastly, this is an event that we hope to have in the future sometime this year. So Smile Train is an organization that provides free surgeries for children with cleft lips and cleft palates. We hope to have a fundraiser for this organization where we donate our funds to their cause. Stay tuned to our website and our social medias as we get more information about this event.
And now we'll be moving on to how you yourself can get involved in our organization and engage in this amazing community. So as we are student-led, most of our volunteers are youth and students ranging from high schoolers to college people. But if you are an adult and not a student, you can still become a Rare Ambassador and be involved in our cause. Our Rare Ambassadorship program's main purpose is to allow the rare disease community to work directly with our organization in order to reach our common goals. Today, we have one of our ambassadors, Dr. Shyamala Pisapati, who will be speaking today on her journey with rare disease advocacy. Now I will be going over some of our volunteer departments, so if you are a student, you can reach out to us and apply to one of these departments. First off, we have writing and research, which does the main writing and research of our articles for rare diseases and stories. Our research department has written 30 articles so far, with more to come. Next, we have our podcast department. As mentioned before, our podcast is Once Upon a Blue Moon, and in this department, they write scripts and narrate podcasts which correspond to our content in our articles and graphics. Next, we have our outreach department, which is very interactive with the rare disease community. We love to reach out to patients, caregivers, and professionals that we can hope to interview or collaborate with. Our next department is the social media department. And here they manage our social media posting and scheduling, as well as just interacting with people. As we are a youth-led organization, we are heavily involved on social media, as it is an amazing way to directly interact with the rare disease community. And we actually have one of our speakers here today, Mr. Christopher Dehaven, who runs a wonderful rare disease Facebook group called Rare Disease Warriors. And then we have our graphics department, which creates graphics ranging from infographics and posters to logos and other designs. This year, we are also working on our merchandise and stickers, which we hope to have out sometime later this year. It's really important to us to make our graphics as easily understandable and eye-catching as possible in order to reach the largest audience. Then we have our website where we post our articles and updates. Feel free to check out our website, shamanfoundations.wixsite.com. I will be putting it in the chat later. And you can subscribe to our website, and this way they will email you a notification every time we post an article. So here is our official logo. As you can see, it is a blue moon, which was one of our main motifs. This comes from the fact that rare diseases are as rare as a blue moon, as the saying goes, which was part of our main inspiration for our designs. I will also be putting all of our contact information as listed here in the chat, so look out for that. And this concludes our presentation. We'd like to thank you all once again for taking the time to come watch our event today. We're so excited to have you hear our speakers, as their stories are so wonderful and powerful. We really hope to make this year's Rare Disease Day meaningful for everyone, especially with these unprecedented times and the fact that we are all virtual this time. Now we will be moving on to our speakers, and please feel free to ask any questions in the chat, and I will be monitoring it.
Thank you, Kayla. In our next segment, we will be hearing from one of our ambassadors, Dr. Shyamala Pisapati, and one of our partners, Tabitha Alfrank. Let's hear first from Dr. Shyamala Pisapati, a dentist, writer, and rare disease advocate from Bangalore, India, whose relentless efforts in the rare disease community, despite the many hardships she has faced, have been absolutely inspirational.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for actually giving me this wonderful opportunity to pitch in today. It's really been my honor to be here today. Firstly, I would like to begin by actually giving a shout out to all the rare disease warriors, advocates, and the caregivers as well in special, without whom the spotlight would not have come into the notice. So the caregivers deserve a special respect and admiration as well. And all the organizations who are striving their level best to create awareness, you have my massive respect, admiration, and gratitude. Thank you so much. And to begin with, I don't have any great achievements so far. I still believe that I'm a constant learner. I'm 24 years old, graduated in 2019 from a very prestigious government dental college, Bangalore, which is ranked 5th in the country. So that is something that I often say with pride. I'm somebody who chose dentistry over medicine because I was not that privileged to study in a medical school due to the fees that was high. And to begin with the hardships, I did not like to prepare a script for this particular talk because I wanted to talk from the heart. So I have a gist of what I would like to share today. My father was diagnosed with a rare disease condition in 2017. Unfortunately, the diagnosis was out on my 21st birthday. That shook my world completely upside down, 21st year birthday was such a nightmare for me. And since then, the journey has only been so devastating until I decided to actually accept the fact for what it is and believe that it is okay to be with a rare disease or to take care of somebody who's actually having a rare disease. The journey began in April 2017 and unfortunately it ended in 2019 September, but a new advocate was born in me from 2020. So those 2 years in which my father lived with the rare disease were incredible, I can say, because it shook me professionally and personally. To tell a few obstacles about a professional life, though I am from a very prestigious dental college in Karnataka and in India for that matter, it is really sad that the doctors themselves are totally unaware about the rare diseases. Often I had to take leaves to take my rare disease father to a hospital, and in the leave letters I used to write, please grant me a leave for 1 day, things like that, mentioning the reason. And to my pleasant surprise, all the doctors and the teachers would in return question me, what it is, please tell me about it, is this really there? And regardless of the qualification that you have, the lack of awareness is something that I would definitely love to emphasize here, because it's not the qualifications that can actually throw light on rare diseases, but a personal journey is much more colorful, and it's much more valuable, I believe. So that is one incident which actually shook me. And second incident professionally is in June 2019, when my teacher told Shyamala, don't share your story to get some sympathy. So again, that created chaos in me. And that was when I took a challenge to myself and told, I am going to share my story with the rest of the world and see how far I can take this cause. So these two incidents professionally shaped my career and personality. Personally, I had to play the role of a doctor and a daughter. So I was split completely exactly into two halves, not knowing where to give equal importance, actually, not knowing which side of the coin I have to flip first. So I know the facts for sure that this condition that my father was diagnosed, that is granulomatosis with polyangiitis, it is a part of vasculitis. Not knowing that this is such a dangerous one, I learned on the internet that the prognosis is poor and only treatment is palliative. But I had to show up as a very confident and an eminent personality at home. Even to vent out, it was really difficult, which is when I took up writing on a serious note. And today I have authored 50,000 novel, which is launching next month. So I took it up with a challenge and told myself that before I turn 25, I want to be an author. So that is something which I'm actually very happy about to share. So it is a shout out for my book as well. Very soon, probably in the next month, you can read my book, honestly, on international platforms as well. So that is a bit about myself. And in the community, what I noticed few obstacles are empathy. People actually lack empathy. And they give very wild stares, and they look down upon us. So all of this is definitely going to come to an end someday, which I'm very optimistic about. And one more thing which I would like to say is people actually question themselves if they should really help. Even if it is something doable by them, they actually question themselves if they should really do it. So once they cross that line, once they enter the learning curve, it becomes very easy for everybody across the world to share their stories and to make a difference. I personally believe that change begins with me. I have failed many times. I've worked with so many different organizations across the world, and few organizations I quit voluntarily because they did not fetch my purpose of glorifying my father. Every advocate, every rare disease warrior, every person has their own story, and I believe that every story matters at the end of the day. So I'm very happy to actually partner with Shaping Foundations. I'm so glad to be with them and work with them. I'm sure that this journey will continue ahead, and this is only a very beautiful journey. I see a very beautiful road in front of me. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Shyamala. It's always a pleasure hearing from you.
I'm so glad to be here today.
Yeah, of course. Okay, so next we will have Tabitha Alfrank of Endosalpingiosis Foundation. She's been working ceaselessly to pass legislation that would make the lives of people struggling with endosalpingiosis much easier. Unfortunately, Tabitha could not be here today because she's not feeling well, but we will be playing a segment of her interview, so stay tuned for that.
I was born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin. I currently live in Janesville. I have a 6.5-year-old son who is starting first grade in a couple weeks. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I decided that I wanted to do this nonprofit. I went through a lot of issues getting pregnant. I had 10 miscarriages in the past 15 years. And I had about 8 of them with my husband, and we've been together for 12 years next month. So when I finally did get pregnant with my son, I decided to, do everything I could to make sure it was a easy birth, and it didn't turn out that way. I was in bed rest, and I had a really difficult pregnancy. And after he was born, I started complications, and the doctors did another surgery, and we found out that I had endosalpingiosis. And then at the same time, they also discovered that I had pelvic floor disorder. So I decided about 6 months after I got my diagnosis, since nobody knew about my disease, that I was going to create a support group on Facebook. And I was pretty excited. I created it. There wasn't anyone else who had one. So I was like, okay, I'm the first one. So, it's a learning curve. And within the first year, I had over 100 members. I had girls from all over the country. Some here in the United States, a lot in the United Kingdom. Australia is a very high number too. China, you name it, we pretty much I have all it. And about a year into doing that, I came up with the idea to do the nonprofits. My husband and my parents have been very supportive of it. My husband's really encouraged me. He actually helped me come up with pretty much everything in the beginning. So I decided that what I wanted to do with a nonprofit was to create awareness, educate the medical community, help women who have this disease, help their families. There's so many different programs that I have in my head that I'm trying to figure out how to get the ball rolling. This last February, I went to Washington, D.C. to attend the National Rare Disease Organization Week, hosted by NORD, which was amazing. I mean, I got to meet people who hear about diseases that I didn't even know exist. I also got to meet with Tammy Baldwin staffer, Ron Johnson staffer, Congressman Brian Steele, who I had met the year before when I was working with Real Across America. So that was pretty exciting to actually be able to meet with him again. I've been working with the staff a few times, so it was nice to actually, finally put the faces to some of the names and emails we've been, dealing with. So, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, no problem.
So, I want to do more advocacy work. After meeting all these people, I realized that there's so much out there that, that we could do for women who have, especially for rare disease. And then unfortunately, COVID happened as soon as about a week after I came home. So things got put on hold, but now things are picking back up. And I did Real Across America again this year. I talked to Tammy Baldwin staff again. They are actually helping me write a resolution for a system program that I want to start waiting so that I can introduce it into the Senate to help with funding, to get my system program up and running. And one of the things I want to do with my system program is to help with transportation, to get to and from the doctors, medicine, have a way that all of the women, that they need help getting onto food share or finding a disability lawyer or any other assistance programs in the states, instead of having to contact all of the different programs, they can reach out to mine and I can be in touch with the state of Wisconsin, and eventually I can go nationwide, and we can have all the resources in one place, and we can eventually have some doctors on board, and we can be able to say, okay, look, you got this. Well, this doctor's in your area, and they can help you. We're also going to do mental health is a big thing that I want to work with, not just for the woman, but for the family, because it affects them. It affects my own son. It goes through it himself, and I want to make sure that the kids don't fall through the cracks, because I want to focus on the mom that they need help, and we need to be there for them. So I also am working on a program called Baskets of Hope. What it is we're going to put together baskets of stuff for women who just had surgery that's related to the disease or related to any disease that they experience. They'll have notebooks, candy, heating pads, bottled waters, that kind of stuff. Deck of cards. I got a list of about 20 items, which you used to be able to see it at all my website, which I'm very excited that we just got launched last month. I am on the GARD, the GARD. I'm listed on them. I just got listed with Nord, which is pretty cool because that took me 18 months of a lot of hard work to get with them. So, any other questions?
Yeah, I just want to say that was an amazing journey. It's really inspiring how much work you've put into it and the rewards you're getting out of it now and how much you're able to do for the rare disease community. And that's just, really inspiring. So the next question we have, you were diagnosed with this disease in 2014, right?
Yep.
So would you mind telling us the story exactly of how you were diagnosed?
Well, like I kind of mentioned, after my son was born, he was born in December of 2013. I started having complications after he was born. So in about February, I went in and they did exploratory surgery. They thought it was going to be endometriosis. They found that it wasn't. The doctor did some labs and pathology reports came back, so endosalpingiosis. He had to reach out to some colleagues in the United States because he's never heard of this disease. Not many have. There's only about a handful of doctors in the whole entire country. I mean, not just the state, I mean the country that actually know about this disease. Unfortunately, most of them are dead. There's a few of them who have actually wrote papers on it, but it's really hard to find information on it. My doctor handed me a piece of paper he found online and said, here you go. I don't know about this disease. He goes, and I'm not really willing to learn about it, so good luck. And walked out of his office. And I was like, oh my God. And that's why I created the support group, because I didn't want other women to have to feel that way, because I was flabbergasted that he wasn't going to help me. And over the 6 months that I continued to see him, I learned more about it than he did. And then the nonprofit came. So yeah.
Wow. Thank you so much. That was really awesome. So if you'd like to learn more about Tabitha's work, check out the link to her website, and we're going to put that in the chat. She's been really inspiring, and hearing about her work is always amazing. All right, so while I'm sure all of us can agree that this pandemic has been a struggle for everyone, it has hit the rare disease community very hard. In our next segment, we will get to hear 3 different perspectives about how the COVID-19 pandemic has impacted the rare disease community, from a patient to an advocate and to an industry professional. Unfortunately, one of our speakers, Victoria Jackson, could not make it today as she is currently undergoing a procedure. However, she was kind enough to pre-record a video of her speaking about her experiences, so let's take a look.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for allowing me to share my experiences of being rare in a pandemic. I'm currently under so I really do appreciate being given the chance to share my experiences in this way. My name is Victoria Jackson. I'm a 32-year-old entrepreneur from Toronto, Canada, and I work in the food processing industry. I have stage 3 pelvic and extrapelvic endometriosis, endosalpingiosis, interstitial cystitis, and PCOS. Being rare in general is a very difficult experience. I started presenting with symptoms, most of which were severe pelvic pain at the age of 5. And I wasn't actually officially diagnosed until 3 weeks before my 32nd birthday. For the most part, as a child, my symptoms were brushed off as me not wanting to go to school. I was also diagnosed with anxiety at the age of 5 under the belief that I, just didn't want to be separated from my parents. At the age of 12, when I got my first period, it started to become more physically obvious that something was very wrong with me. I began to lose a lot of weight, became very pale and anemic. My periods would come twice a month, 8 days for each time. I would soak through all of the clothes and pads that I would wear, and I started fainting. This took a huge impact on my life as a 12-year-old, socially, emotionally. I was also a huge fan of sports, and that had a huge impact on that. My doctors were not too interested at that time in figuring out the reasons why I felt this way. So I was put on hormone replacement therapy at the age of 14, and I continued to stay on it until the age of 31. When I got a bit older in my early 20s, doctors finally started to pay a bit more attention to my symptoms when my ultrasounds started to present with large cysts on my ovaries and with hydrosplinks in both of my tubes. Several rounds of antibiotics were not able to eliminate the hydrosplinks, and I finally started the process of seeing a specialist. Seeing a specialist over the years, I was just given more and more medications. I couldn't even tell you if I tried the amount of different medications that I've been on, birth controls and different types of hormones to try and alleviate my symptoms. They would work approximately for a year or two, and then we would switch to a different kind. When I met with a specialist to talk about my tubes, I was basically told that I had to deal with the pain and accept that it was part of my life now, and that we would worry about my tubes when I was ready to have children. A few years later, when I was ready to have children, the test showed that the damage to my tubes was so great that the specialist suggested removing them. So there I was sitting at the age of 30, finally in front of one of the country's best specialists, best excision specialists. And I was essentially told that my tubes had to be removed, that there was no option for me to ever be off hormone replacement therapy for the rest of my life, regardless of what procedures I had, that if I did have endo, it would return no matter what types of surgeries I had. I was told that the pain I had in my vagina couldn't be endo and must have been in my head. I was told that the nausea that I had, specifically the years I spent throwing up every morning, also couldn't be endo and must have been something that was in my head. Finally, in January 2020, I made the decision to seek out a specialist in the US, and I landed upon who I felt was the perfect surgeon, who was in Atlanta. So in January, I made the decision to book surgery with him and pay out of pocket, as I don't have any insurance. We booked surgery for May 15th, 2020. One of the requirements of my surgeon was for me to get off the medication that I was on immediately so that I could have, for the first time in almost 20 years, natural cycles before my period. So in the beginning of March 2020, I got off Vizan, knowing that it would probably not go well, but not really knowing what would happen. As we all know, in March, later that month, COVID hit North America. And it became pretty clear pretty early on that my surgery was not going to happen on May 15th. After a lot of deliberation and a lot of back and forth, we made the decision to rebook my surgery for July 24th, 2020. Now, this had a lot of impacts on my life. This decision to just change the date of my surgery due to COVID. Biggest of which was my physical impact. As I mentioned, I got off Vizan in March 2020 with the thought of only being off it for 2 months. And I ended up being off it from March until the end of July. My health, unfortunately, started to deteriorate rapidly, daily. I got to the point where I no longer could go to work. As I mentioned, I own a business that does food processing. So although my business was struggling and going through the biggest challenges it had come across, I wasn't able to actually go in anymore. I wasn't able to be physically active. You know, I had a Zoom workout group that I had to leave. And I just wasn't able to function in my life. I do remember one day specifically when I had decided to go into work for just a few hours, just to grab a few things. And I distinctly remember that I went outside just to pull in the awning to help out my receptionist in, which was something I'd done a million times. And I knew that something was very wrong. And I immediately went into a giant flare. I ended up in the back staff change room on the couch crying and vomiting into a garbage can. And we had to call my husband to come and get me from work. And this is something that had happened so many times and happened so many times after, but this was the first time that it happened at work. And I remember one of my staff, I was a 16-year-old girl, and she was crying because she was so scared. And that was an experience that I will never forget. Medically, there was a lot of impact of this on me. A lot of the tests that I needed to get done for my surgery weren't possible because of COVID and everything just being backlogged. So for example, I was supposed to get a chest CT scan done to see if there was anything in my diaphragm or in my chest, as I was having shortness of breath as a symptom. And I wasn't able to get the test done in time. I had tried put in the rec in March, and I received a letter in June that the CT scan would be done on July 24th, which was actually my surgery date in the US. So we actually had to go in blindly, having no concept if the thoracic specialist was going to be needed or not. Emotionally, this had a huge impact on me. My situation went from a situation where all my friends and family were excited for me and so happy I was getting this surgery, to a situation where actually every single one of my family and friends sat me down at one point, virtually, and said, I really don't think you should do this. This is very dangerous to go to another country. Please reconsider. I distinctly remember my mom begging me to not go. And she said, can't you just go to a private clinic in Canada? And I had to explain to her that that doesn't exist. And the top specialist in Canada didn't believe me. And it was a very sad moment for her to realize that the only option I had was to go to the US during COVID. And people were very worried. And it was very difficult for me to explain to them that I actually couldn't wait it out. And I couldn't wait any longer to go because my health was just at the rock bottom it had ever been. So going to the US was also, an interesting situation. What was supposed to be, a quick 2-hour flight over to Atlanta turned into a full trip, both there and back with layovers. I had to call both borders to get clearance to be able to travel. The biggest fear that I had was the COVID test in Atlanta before my surgeries. So something that was not even a consideration at the time when I originally booked my surgery was the biggest stressor I had. The thing that I was the most scared of was getting to the US, doing my COVID test, and testing positive. And that was a horrific thought that scared me very much. I was very lucky to make it into the US smoothly and to be able to have my surgery. My husband was allowed to stay with me in the hospital, which was very, very amazing as I stayed overnight. The surgery was 4.5 hours and it was very successful. The surgeon was able to excise all endometriosis, all endosalpingiosis. He found Hunner's lesions in my bladder, which finally diagnosed me with interstitial cystitis. And he also diagnosed me with severe pelvic inflammatory disease and Fitzhugh-Curtis on my liver. He was able to excise all of the adhesions that were found inside of me. He used the Da Vinci robot to remove endometriosis from areas such as my intestines, which was causing my nausea. And he proved finally that I did have endometriosis and endosalpingiosis inside my vagina, my rectovaginal space, and my uterosacral ligaments, amongst many other places, showing that what the doctor had told me in Canada just wasn't accurate. Coming back into Canada, was also very difficult due to the pandemic. Similarly to leaving, these were times when my family and friends wanted to hug me the most. These were times when I should have been able to be with my family, and I couldn't. I had to come home and isolate with my husband. And this was a time when my husband should have been able to get support to take care of me, and he couldn't because he had to isolate. And it was very lonely and very hard for both of us. I remember I had a few complications after surgery, one of which was a UTI, and that came around the time that I had to get my stitches looked at. And my family doctor was actually on vacation at the time, so I had to go to a walk-in clinic. And because I had just been in the States, they had to book me a day in the walk-in clinic where they cleared out every single other patient and every single other physician except the physician that would see me. So it was the eeriest experience walking in there with nobody around. It was a giant medical office. They had closed everything off because I was there. My medical chart had black marker with giant circles around it that stated I was been in the States. Similar with kidney stones, going in with my kidney stones, which are often a complication from intestinal surgery. Going in, my husband, of course, wasn't allowed in the ER with me in Toronto. And I remember he dropping me off and the security guard saying, "You can't go with her." And I couldn't walk. I was on the floor screaming. I didn't even have a cell phone with me. And I was just whisked off by the security guard. And my husband had to just call the hospital over and over to check on what was going on with me because we didn't know what kind of complication this was. And when the ER doctor had found out, had asked me what my job was, and I told him I was in food processing, before even giving me any painkillers, I got a COVID test out my nose, which was just humiliatingly experienced because I was in so much pain already. I was on the floor on all fours in the room at the time that he did the test. Even to now, it's very difficult to deal with being rare in the pandemic. I'm currently undergoing IVF, and for somebody with the conditions that I have, I knew right away that I wasn't going to respond well to the hormones that they were going to give me. And I told them up front, I'm not going to respond well to this. And they said, you're fine. You're going to be fine. When I did have complications, it was around the time that I was doing stims, and I had a situation where they added a new injection and I vomited immediately after, and I was really sick. And the next day I had testing in the hospital, and I was crying, and I was sitting there and saying how hard this was for me. And the nurse had suggested that I had COVID and that's what the problem was. And I remember arguing with him and saying, I threw up immediately after my injection. And he was saying, no, that's not normal. And my response was, I understand that, but I've read the pamphlet for the injection, and somebody with these conditions that I have, that actually is a normal response. And he was saying, no, you need to get a COVID test. And the pelvic pain in your ovary that you're experiencing is also not normal. Although my ovaries were rapidly growing, I was producing new follicles every day. He was saying, no, that's actually not normal, and you should go get a COVID test. And about an hour later, when I got home, I got a call from a different nurse saying, we've looked at your results and your blood work, and please disregard what that nurse said to you, because we can see that you're reacting very badly and you're hyper reacting to the medication, and we're sorry. And it is actually very normal what you're going through. And, I do completely understand the need to be safe and the need to check every precaution. What worries me is that, this nurse, for example, was using COVID as an excuse to not have to take responsibility for the fact that he gave very, very strong hormones to somebody with a long list of medical conditions. and that when you do that, there's an impact, and that patient needs extra support. And he hadn't even, I found out, bothered to check my chart of what conditions I had. And so again, as you know, I'm fully supporting being safe and being cautious. It worries me to what extent responsibility for treating and giving extra support to people with rare diseases is going to be just pushed to the side and replaced with, you know, you might have COVID. Specifically when it comes to pelvic pain, I mean, if you're talking about pelvic pain being an automatic symptom for needing a COVID test, the entire endosalpingiosis community either has to lie about their symptoms to seek treatment, or we have to get a COVID test every time that we go into the doctor's office. It alienates us, isolates us, embarrasses us, and makes us feel horrible about ourselves. So that's, you know, that's what my experience has been being rare in the pandemic. Overall, it's been difficult. Like I said, being rare is difficult in general. I feel that this has heightened the experience. I also feel that this has opened people's eyes a little bit to the types of lives that we've been living with. You know, when I was sick before my surgery and I couldn't go out, I couldn't see anybody, I couldn't go to work, I couldn't go to the gym. Those are the situations that people were dealing with during the pandemic. So I hope that it does also bring some compassion to our lives, that when the pandemic's over, we're still living these lives. We're still suffering and we're still alienated from the rest of the community. So thank you again for allowing me to share my experience. I hope that I could bring you some type of new perspective or new information on what it's like to be rare in the pandemic. Thank you, and hope that you all have a great morning.
Thank you so much to Victoria. We know that she couldn't be here, but her story is simply amazing to listen to. And we're really, really grateful that she was able to do this for us, despite the fact that she's having a procedure right now. All right, so next we have Mr. Christopher Dehaven, who has been running a Facebook page called Rare Disease Warriors, which has become a tight-knit community of hundreds of rare disease patients, caregivers, and advocates who have all come together to support one another in navigating the rare disease world. Without further ado, here is Mr. Christopher Dehaven.
Hello, thank you for allowing me to be here with you. Again, my name is Christopher Dehaven. I apologize for my lack of speech if you can't understand me. I have spinal cerebellum ataxia type 14, which affects so many aspects of my life, and one of them is my speaking. I started Rare Disease Warrior in 2019 because people needed a place to go to talk and share with others their stories and get information from patients around the world that have their type of disease. I couldn't find any such websites or organizations on my own, so I decided to start one, and now it has over 1,000 members and growing. My story started back when I was in school. I was a very clumsy child, I always thought, and people would make fun of me, and I would just, laugh with them because there's nothing else you can do except you know laugh at yourself. So growing up, my teachers, they did know that something wasn't quite right with me, but they never said anything to my parents. And when I was a senior in high school, mm, I was actually accused of being on drugs. Um, it wasn't for a couple years later that I was tested, and I found out that I did have this rare disease, and it really affected my relationship with my parents because they did not believe me, and um, my um, my teachers, um, never said anything, and that's one thing that I'm trying to um, help other people understand. Um, if you're a teacher and you see something that doesn't look quite right, say something to the parents. They might already know, but a teacher spends the most time with you children growing up. And if you see something, say something. Um, that's what I really want to get across to the teachers out there. Um, Again, I want to thank you for allowing me to be with you. It's really an honor to watch this um, uh, conference. I'm sorry, my my brain knows what I want to say. I just sometimes have a hard time getting it out. Um, but again, thank you so much. And if you would like to help me and become a warrior, um, spread the importance of helping these organizations that support rare diseases. Um, I would really appreciate it. Um, Keywords on Facebook are Rare Disease Warriors, and this is my logo. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christopher, for speaking about your experiences. It's really amazing and inspiring to hear from people like you who speak right from their heart. So again, thank you so much. All right, so for our next and final speaker, we have Dr. Latika Hickey from Rocket Pharmaceuticals, who is one of our partners, and we will be getting more insight into how the pandemic has impacted the research there and the research that they're doing and how that has impacted the development of treatments for rare diseases.
Hello, everyone. My name is Latika Hickey. Thank you so much to the Shaping Foundations team for the inspiring work you do and for holding today's event on Rare Disease Day. Also, I have to say, it's been an absolute pleasure hearing the stories of Christopher, Tabitha, Victoria, and Shyamala. You represent a lot of what I hear on a daily basis from our patients and families. I am the patient advocate at Rocket Pharma. We are a biotech company that is researching gene therapies that could potentially cure the root cause of complex and rare childhood disorders. As a patient advocate at Rocket Pharma, I represent the patient voice in our clinical programs, and I also liaise with our patients and families affected by devastating rare diseases who are thinking about gene therapy clinical trials or who just want more information. I joined Rocket Pharma right as the pandemic hit at the end of March 2020. Schools were shut down, businesses were shut down, streets were emptied. In fact, I saw pictures of New York and it looked like it was scenes from a movie. One of the parts of my job that I hold very dear to my heart is speaking with either patients themselves or parents or loved ones of those affected by rare diseases. And as COVID hit, and the rates of COVID were on the rise, there was a lot of fear and uncertainty, especially amongst the immunocompromised. I'd like to start off with an example. I was contacted by a young mother from Brazil. She has a small child with a rare disease that increases the chances of her son getting infected just by just regular viruses and bacteria that are out there. So as you can imagine, with COVID-19, there was an increased risk. So even in a non-pandemic world, she has to really take care traveling out of her home and taking him to regular doctor visits and to blood transfusions, which he required. With COVID, she didn't know how to leave safely from her house. In fact, her regular doctor's appointments were even canceled. And the doctor had wanted to meet with her over the phone. And that is really different than going in and seeing in person and talking about what is really affecting you. So at the beginning of April last year, the National Organization for Rare Disorders had conducted a survey amongst just under 800 people affected by rare disease. And here are some of their findings. And a lot of these findings are exactly what I have heard from our patients and families. About 3/4 of these folks had their medical appointments canceled. Some were converted to phone or e-visits, but a lot of doctors' offices had to really figure out how to do remote visits because they did not have any experience in it. About 70% of these individuals were worried that there would be shortages in their medications or medical supplies that they regularly rely on. And about 1/3 of these individuals even lost their jobs, either temporarily or permanently. And 11% of those individuals that lost their jobs also lost health insurance. Imagine that, being a rare disease patient and relying on regular medical care. That's scary. So with that, many felt extremely isolated. They often relied on these outings to the doctor's offices or the medical clinics to get their transfusions. Those were ways that they connected with the community. Those were ways that they saw other people. Now they had to stay at home, so they were very isolated. So now here we are, almost 1 year later. I've kept in touch with many of our patients and families, and we conducted a survey of our own from Rocket Pharma. And what we found was very inspiring, and it shows a resiliency amongst our patients and families with rare diseases. Here's what we found. They use social media and electronic means like Zoom. Zoom was available free to connect with one another. In fact, one teenager told me that he was told by his doctor that he was the only one in his entire state affected by the rare disease that he has, he used social media, Facebook, to find other kids just like him. That blew his mind. They used grocery delivery services to avoid unnecessary exposures. They used technology to self-monitor when they couldn't go to the clinic. So for example, there was a patient with a rare disease, with a rare heart condition, and he used his Fitbit to monitor his heart rate. That is so clever. And to call the doctor if he saw any abnormality. One young man was even able to borrow an electric scooter and get around to avoid strain, because sometimes he took the bus and now he had to avoid any type of public transportation. So individuals today are still struggling due to COVID. It hasn't gone away, but they have found incredibly creative ways to get on with their lives. I feel very, very fortunate to be able to connect with patients and families affected by rare diseases and see firsthand their resiliency. If there's anyone who's listening or who will see this webinar who needs more information on navigating their rare disease, I'm more than happy to connect and provide educational resources, or even connect you with other support, community support groups, because I talk to a lot of them. And thank you so much for the time. And thank you so much again to Shaping Foundations for the remarkable work that you do. And I hope to hear and answer any questions today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much to you, Latika, for speaking to us today and speaking for us today. If you would like to check out Rocket Pharmaceuticals and more of what they do, we're going to put the link to their website in the chat, so you can definitely check them out and learn more about them. They're a really amazing company that does a lot of great, amazing work, so definitely go check them out.
Yeah, so thank you everyone who spoke here today for sharing their stories. Hearing the resilience and strength of everyone who spoke is incredibly inspiring, and I personally also learned a lot from everyone who spoke here. Since we have some extra time, we'll be taking questions and or comments. So if you have any questions to ask to any of our speakers or to us, or if you'd just like to say something in general, you can raise your hand and then I'll call on you, then you can unmute and ask your question or say whatever it is you'd like to say.
Hi, sorry, I'm not finding a button to raise my hand. So is it okay if I make a comment or two?
Yeah, go ahead.
Great. And I just wanted to say, my name is Tushar, and I just wanted to say this was very informative for me, right? The rare diseases field is something that I'm not that greatly aware of, and all the speakers spoke so genuinely and from their heart. You guys are high schoolers. Hosting this type of event is not easy. So, also hats off to all of you. And if there is any which way I can contribute towards these activities, certainly let me know.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate that. I see Robin, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I was just wondering if anybody has any tips for if you have been diagnosed with a undiagnosable malignant rare disease that they can't identify. Where I live at the National Institute of Health near me, which is Roswell Park Comprehensive Care Institute, what anybody would recommend doing, especially since I do actually have a small proposal about what I believe to be happening, since I am a graduate student that does research rare diseases.
Yeah, that's a really great question. So personally, as an organization, we haven't really done much research on undiagnosed disorders yet. They are very difficult. We've heard stories from people who, the doctors can't really figure out what's going on, and it takes a lot of testing, and at some point they just have to start treating the symptoms instead of and they can't really figure out what the root cause is. So if any of our speakers would like to add on to that, we'd be willing to hear.
Hello, I can help. I can help provide a resource for that. That is a really good question. In fact, it's not being able to diagnose correctly the disorder that you have is one of the greatest problems that we have in the rare disease world, because the diseases are just that rare. I think in medical school, maybe they were covered for a small portion of time, so they're not on top of mind of clinical professionals. However, what you can do as a patient is empower yourself to believe in yourself, and there are some resources that you can look at. I personally think that the NIH has an incredible website called NCATS. It's the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences. And what I'll do is I will link that in the comments section here so that you can navigate that. That is a wonderful starting point for information about rare diseases, or even some questions that you could ask your medical professionals to get more information.
Okay, thank you.
I also see that Dr. Shyamala has her hand up, so would you like to say anything?
Yeah, I want to say something. I have a direct question to ask for Rocket Pharmaceuticals because I think 3 days back I came across a person who is actually in real need of help. I'm not really sure about this, so I thought directly asking you will be much better instead of me living in assumptions. So a 3-year-old baby is diagnosed with pulmonary alveolar proteinosis, and we are looking forward to raise funds. So the question from the kid's father. So this question is not from me, but I'm asking on behalf of somebody who's actually suffering. So in what way can Rocket Pharmaceuticals help? They actually mentioned the name very clearly, that is Rocket Pharmaceuticals, which is why I'm actually asking this question. Probably be it in drug development or fundraising, I'm not really sure of. So I want to know what help Rocket Pharmaceuticals can do in this case.
It's a great question. I want to let you know that at the current point in time, Rocket Pharmaceuticals is studying 5 specific genetic disorders. However, as a patient advocate, I get questions from patients and families affected by other genetic diseases or other rare diseases that Rocket is not currently studying. So what I do is I am able to provide additional resources and point you in the right direction. So if the family would like to email me directly, I can private message you my email address, or you can go to rocketpharma.com and there is a contact link there. And I am more than happy to connect with this father and to help provide some more information.
Thank you so much. Also, we stay in India, so will that be a barrier? Will the geographical distance be a barrier to get help, if at all?
You know, remarkably, one of our families has traveled from India to the United States. So there are people who move around from all around the world to get care. So in today's modern times, I really feel that we're more connected than ever. So even if they are in India, they shouldn't feel too far away. They can and will be able to find a local help or help on the internet too.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks to everyone who's spoken so far. Does anyone else have any other questions? Any comments, anything like that? Just feel free to raise your hand. If you don't know how to do that, you can just ask your question in the chat, or you can speak up right now if you are unsure how to raise your hand.
Shyamala, I'm not sure if you can see this, but someone asked what your book is going to be about.
I actually saw that message. I hope I'm audible enough now. Yes.
Yeah, you're good.
Yeah, you sound great.
Yeah. Okay. The book is all about to immortalize my father, but I didn't make it completely a rare disease novel because my target is to attract the youth, regardless of the geographical area again. And I strongly believe that, especially the youth currently, will not pick up any book unless it personally connects with them on some level. So I didn't make it completely like rare disease practical story where I'm quoting only numbers or values or any radiographical pictures, things like that. But I've drawn inspiration from my father. It also speaks about his childhood and friendship. There's an element of love in it as well. The idea of believing in second chances and hope, bravery, courage. Sometimes giving up is the best option instead of continuing to stay when you're actually getting failed so many times. So it speaks about a lot of things, but it's a fiction based reality. I hope I answered the question.
Yeah, definitely sounds really amazing. Sorry, was someone else going to ask a question?
I wanted to ask a question. Hello, everyone. Thank you for this wonderful presentation. And I belong from Rocket Pharma. So Latika and me are not in the same team, but I work for quality assurance. And I find myself lucky enough that I got this opportunity in this lifetime to work for a patient who is having rare disease. So thank you so much for bringing up this presentation to me as well. And I made my daughter also watch this thing to get motivated about how we can help humans and do our bit to the society.
Okay, well, I think that's it. That's the time we have today. So again, thank you so much for everyone for joining. Thank you to our speakers for taking the time out of their day and sharing their story with us. And thank you for everyone for joining. I hope you learned a little bit today. Feel free to contact us if you have any questions. If you'd like to learn more about the family that was mentioned today, we can definitely forward you their information once we get it. If you have any other questions for us or our speakers, you can ask us for their contact, and I'm sure they'd be happy to give it to you. Make sure to check out more about the rare disease community, either through our page or through any other of the other people we mentioned today. Also, be sure to participate in the rare disease blackout. Again, you can find the graphic on our website, or you can ask us for it. We can also email that to you too. And yeah, that's it. That's all we have for today. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yep. And I hope everybody has like a great Sunday and Rare Disease Day and just have like a lovely day.